Gents, are you thinking of joining the gym? Have you joined the gym already, but you want to do more? Are you in the gym and you want to get the best out of your body, but do you also want to get the best out of your body with the best supplements and supports with the least risks of downtime, side effects, illness, injury?
In this podcast, you're going to learn all our lowdown of the top 4 types of supplements that people take that you might buy in your gym. Are they worth the risk? Do they have a good reward? We're going to bust some myths. I have women coming into my clinic all the time and they are asking me, my husband just went to the gym, he went into the shop and he came back with all these supplements. They were in our cupboard. Is it bullshit or is it worth the hype? First one that I hear all the time, creatine. Is that something that people should be taking, or is it like a dodgy one? And are there good ones? And what's the story with that?
Okay, so more and more, I think creatine, I've reversed my stance on creatine in the last 10 years anyway, certainly the last 5. Because when I joined the industry 20 years ago, it had a vastly different reputation. I think we had a sense that people who were taking creatine were putting specifically their kidneys at risk of kidney failure. I think the thing was, it was overblown because most of the use of creatine was within bodybuilding and really, areas of physical performance that were not just about supporting your natural, optimal health. They were the opposite. And like we see in all professional sports, right? People sacrifice long-term health for short-term performance. And that's what you can do with creatine, with protein powders in general, with most supplements, if I'm honest. I think particularly the ones that accelerate the performance of some metabolic process, because there's always going to be downstream side effects. Like if you say, take loads of coffee today, you'll perform really well today, but you won't sleep, and tomorrow you'll feel like SH1T. So with creatine, I think there's a risk, but particularly the risk is isolated to those people who have underdeveloped kidneys, so children, those people who are operating off less than optimal kidney function, and those people who are already taking very high protein diets. If people are on a keto diet, or if people are like bodybuilding sort of diets where you might be having like 250 grams of protein per day. For most of us, I think a healthy amount of protein from a dietary point of view is like 1.82 gram to 2 grams per kilo body weight, which is still a lot. It's way more than what the WHO will tell you.
Just break that down. What does that, because that's just numbers that I don't understand.
So
how much does that look like for me?
It's loads.
And then for you?
It's loads.
What am I eating in a day?
It's really hard, actually, genuinely really hard to achieve. I'd say I managed to achieve it on maybe 2 days out of the 7. So for me, I'm 76 kilos. So that means that I'm going to have to get 140 odd grams of protein in a day, considering an egg has 6 grams of protein, maybe 7, maybe 8 if it's a gigantic egg. Our steaks might have 20 to 30 grams. And all of your vegetable protein, your pulses, lentils, chickpeas, all those sorts of guys. In a serving, you might have 8, maybe 10, maybe 15 grams, depending on the one. But the problem is it's locked up with fiber. And we're going to get into that in terms of the problems with vegan protein. But that means that about 50% of that protein essentially is not available to your body because it's locked up with the fiber. So it means a lot of fairly focused eating. And the problem, I think, is that challenge is real. I don't think there's a way to dodge that. I think if we're looking at like long healthy life stuff, muscle sarcopenia, you're looking at neurological decline, cardiovascular issues. So many of these things are reliant on optimal, or to prevent from these things, it's reliant on you having optimal amounts of really good quality, undenatured protein. The problem being that most of our protein is overcooked and hence denatured. So for instance, our eggs, the egg whites, this is why bodybuilders have raw eggs in the morning, because when you cook the eggs have protein in them, which is egg albumin, beautiful quality protein. But when you cook it, you denature them, you kind of kink the proteins. And those proteins are A, not well absorbed or used by the body, and B, actually cause oxidative stress in our system. So it's one of the reasons why I'm a 63-degree egg guy or 65-degree egg guy. I poach my eggs. I do them like way underdone. Like they're almost like jelly. They're like oysters, basically, when you eat them. Most people aren't. And my family hate me because I won't do proper scrambled eggs.
It's such a struggle, though, because I'm someone who would have been allergic to eggs as a kid. So I'm kind of funny with eggs. And I've been trying consciously to bring eggs into my diet because they're such a complete food. I think they're just amazing for you. But I mean, if they're runny in any way, like forget about it. Coming straight back out.
No, really, wow.
So for me, I'm like thinking I'm doing a really good job at eating my eggs now versus not eating any eggs. But actually,
I think on balance, you're still probably doing better than most people. I think like all of us, like me too. I mean, at Christmas time, I had scrambled eggs, overcooked eggs, whatever. I'll have them the odd time. It's not like you're doing all harm in that situation. It's not like all the protein is denatured in that situation, but it's some of it is. So it's just we need to be conscious of like balancing that out. And that's why protein powders, which are pure and undenatured protein, that's why they become so valid and so useful when it comes to optimal body function for now, but also prevention of all those decline things I was talking about.
okay, so just to pause for a second, because we're going to move on to the protein powders
Yes.
now. But creatine, what actually is it? Like, why does someone take it?
So it's an amino acid. So basically, when your body wants to do a short, so in the different levels of activity, the different lengths of time that your cells are required to do activity, your muscle cells, they will use different fueling options. For 10 to 30 seconds at the start of any movement, so it usually explosive movements, you use what's called the creatine phosphate pathway. So that's when your body wants to fuel in an immediate explosive way. So all of the plyometric strength-based training stuff, all the HIIT training type of stuff, as long as it doesn't go too long, is, definitely in that kind of creatine thing. And all of those like 1 rep max guys in the gym, that's why creatine is so good for them, because it really feeds the muscles. Now it causes all sorts of issues with water weight as well, but we can get into that in a second. Then after that creatine, you then have glycolysis, which is your body's preferred method of burning of fuel, burns glucose to create ATP and energy. There is quite a lot of oxidative stress produced as a result of that. And so some people, and this is one of the reasons the ketogenic diet is so useful, because there's this option of beta oxidation of fats. That third fueling option is much cleaner, doesn't require insulin, doesn't produce what's called advanced glycation end products, all of these oxidative stress kind of downstream molecules that essentially damage the body over time, harden the arteries, cross-link collagen fibers, and cause all sorts of aging-related decline things. So those are the 3 things. And if you're taking creatine primarily because you want to do the sort of things that are going to bulk your muscles, like hypertrophic sort of muscle work. So if you're just running a marathon, creatine doesn't really have too much of a relationship to that, other than that you do, if you're doing endurance work for long periods of time, your body will start to break down muscle tissue in order to do what's called a process called gluconeogenesis. So your body breaks down muscle tissue to turn it back into glucose to essentially fuel your body. And in that situation, both creatine and what's called branched chain amino acids, BCAAs, have been shown to have muscle sparing effects. So that when you have them in the bloodstream, when you are training, doing endurance training, you may have less muscle wastage as a result of that endurance effort. Does that make sense?
It does. What is there a creatine that you recommend?
Yeah.
Is there one that's not good and one that's good? Like
creatine monohydrate really is what I tend to recommend. It's the old form of creatine. There are like crealkaline creatine and other sorts of modern forms. I think the most proven stuff from a studies point of view, if you look at most of the studies, it's done with creatine monohydrate powder. We have one which is from Honest, and we also have a capsule form which is from a company called Natural Stacks, which I really like. It's bloody expensive. The Natural Stacks one has fenugreek, which supports testosterone synthesis and also manages blood sugars and modulates inflammation. So it's a cool herb to put in there. And it has Himalayan salt to balance out the electrolyte thing. So the thing that I was saying with creatine, it actually increases the body's water weight. So you'll find guys who are doing bodybuilding, they won't take creatine when they're cutting. They'll take it when they're, whatever it is, bulking. So when they're cutting, they'll be trying to like lose water weight. So take water pressure out of the muscles, take sodium out of the muscles, and da da da.
So then we talked a lot about protein there, but we haven't kind of got into it. Protein powders, like there used to be a kind of misconception that protein powders was something that you only took if you went to the gym and you were trying to bulk up, right? Whereas now, like every second person is taking protein powders because of this thing that you were saying, which is where we're not getting enough bioavailable protein, or our digestive system maybe isn't working at its optimum, so we're not absorbing the protein from our food. But protein still has a place in the gym. The thing is that what I see is most gyms sell these kind of protein powders that look like they were made by a bodybuilder, and they've got some kind of shiny packaging, and it's in this big, like, I'm a man, so I have huge protein powder. And those ones are usually Whey, and they're usually filled with loads of bulking stuff
Yeah.
and other stuff. Can you talk into, if you are wanting creatine powder, where you should buy it from and what it is that you need to be looking in for?
Yeah, so I think for most people who are attending the gym, you're right. The priority, unfortunately, and this, so we discovered this as a result of running a cafe inside a gym. We found that most people are actually not that interested in nutrition or nourishing themselves. They're interested in doing the work in the gym and having cheat days on pizza, bulking their body, getting the body to look as immediately as good as it can look without thinking of like, what's the longevity, what's the long-term consequence of the type of training I'm doing. We're the opposite to that. I'm certainly the opposite to that. I know you are as well. When we're training, we're looking for function. We're like, it's never form over function. That's just not sensible. I'm not a professional athlete. I have nothing to prove. I'm doing this because I want my body to be something that I can enjoy for longer with more strength and feeling good. Of course, there's some aesthetic consequences to it, which are really nice when they're downstream and you can see results. But training for the results that you see is backwards. Like, it's so backwards. We want to train to improve, stability in our posterior chain and strength of posterior chain, so that we're going to be able to be essentially not housebound in our 70s, that we're going to, be able to, walk long distances, walk the Camino, go still enjoy running after kids and grandkids when we're 60s and 70s. Anyway, so protein in that context is entirely different to think about than what you're doing in the gym. And it means that the source of your protein needs to be much more considered, I would say. Because you're also thinking about, okay, pesticide residues. Like, are we getting whey protein? Is it from organic agriculture? Probably not. Unfortunately, USN and all these other big brands, they're not focused on, the health of the planet at all. They're not focused on your health, actually, at all. They are focused on the sorts of studies that show short-term performance optimization or those sorts of benefits, muscle growth benefits and that sort of thing. And so you get what you pay for. It's cheap, it's bulky, it's full of bulking agents, it's full of synthetic sweeteners. What? Gross. Not into it. It's not good for your body. Wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't go near it with a barge pole.
Most people that I'm hearing about who take that stuff end up with really bad bloating as well. So like, if you are actually going like, well, I just really want to look ripped and I want to go to the gym and I want to look my best, then you fill up with protein and it makes you really bloated and farty. Not great.
Yeah.
Kind of counteracts that.
Big time. You're not feeling good. You're like looking good, but not feeling good, and also getting quite like actually bloated. Yeah, you're right. And so I think when you have like a focus on protein for health, then you need to look at like, okay, whey might be the biological gold standard, which it is, 93 to 94% protein content in your whey protein. It presents in terms of the ratio of amino acids, both the EAAs and the BCAAs. It presents to your body with a lot that it can do in order to stimulate what's called mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin, which is the muscle, so the signaling process that tells your body to build muscle. So not only are you feeding your body with the actual nutrients that make muscle, but you're also signaling to your body, I actually want to build muscles. Your body goes, oh, I'm going to build muscle now because you've fed me the nutrients. So it's like a double whammy. It's like a double bonus. When you get the right ratio of amino acids, which you have in abundance in whey protein. The problem being you have, like you said, digestive distress, because there's a lots of immune system, dysregulating immune system stimulating compounds within whey, where you have your body essentially doesn't like it. It doesn't present like a really nice health food. And so it tends to cause dysbiosis, which is, then causes bloatiness and fartiness, but also that's like underlying. That means that there's a bacterial imbalance in your gut being triggered by eating that protein. That's long-term really not good, because that's...
And you're aggravating, right? You're aggravating on a wasted level. You're aggravating the gut walls. You're creating inflammation. And then when you do eat your regular food and your protein source food, you're not going to be absorbing that, your food. Exactly. So all of the other stuff that you're getting in the day that's funding you to give you energy to go to the gym isn't going to work as well.
Exactly, bang on. Yeah, so what I tend to say is go for a good quality organic protein if you can. Now, you won't find a whey protein isolate that's organic, because I believe the process has never been certified organic, but you will find a whey protein concentrate. Now, an isolate versus a concentrate is quite different, because an isolate means you're taking the whey away from, like you're centrifuging it and spinning it and removing anything that isn't whey in there. You're moving the sugar compounds, the casein, anything else. A whey concentrate, you're not doing that. So you're ending up with a high proportion of whey, so 83, 84%, maybe more whey protein, but then you have other things in there, which are, healthy things if it's coming from organic agriculture. So I think great. And also a really good quality organic whey concentrate doesn't really have a flavor. So it's not gross. You can put it into absolutely anything. All it does is provide like a slightly thick creaminess, and it's a really easy thing to add into your diet and, make your protein pancakes or whatever with. Cooking with it, probably not ideal for long term because you will denature the protein, but if you're just adding it into the pan, into a batter, not the worst thing in the world.
And so if you're getting an organic whey concentrate, is that better then than getting an organic pea protein?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because I think we've been sponsored by Newzest in the past, and I also use Newzest all the time. Every day I still use pea protein, right? For me, I find I can do about 3 or 4 weeks of whey before I start to suffer those dysbiosis symptoms. Some people are different. Now I have no real problem with it. There you go. It just like really disrupts your gut
straight away.
And I don't have a huge problem with dairy. I would consume dairy regularly and would have no issue. But for whatever reason, it's like the concentrated nature of the things, immunoglobulins or whatever the things that are in there that I find don't suit me. And a lot of people find the same. But what I tend to do is cycle. So I'll go like 3 weeks of whey, and I know that's probably a cutoff, and then do like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of pea, and then go back on the whey again, because I know you're providing, it's variety is the spice of life, the same as any aspect of your diet. A variety of sources will provide a different ratio of different micronutrients and protein and amino acid levels, the different ratios that are in there. It's really good to vary that.
And so what are your top two? If you're recommending someone a whey one and a pea one, what are your two brands?
So there's a good whey from True Natural Goodness, which is an Irish brand, which is great. We also have a French brand, Ecologic, I think it's called, which we just got in recently. And then from a vegan protein point of view, a pea protein point of view, because pea, European golden pea, so when it's concentrated and isolated, you get a very similar ratio of amino acids and a very high biological value from the protein that's in there. And Newzest, I think, is the only brand I know on the market that uses that Peasane extract, which is that European golden pea that's grown without any fertilizers. It's grown without any pesticides, so it's not certified organic, but it is grown organically.
Okay, so the next big one, steroids. Is there anyone that should be on steroids? What is the good? Are there good things about it? What are the negative things? Why do people even take it in the first place?
So I'm not a huge expert in steroids, but I will tell you the few stories I've heard from, and we have a lot of big gym bunnies who would pass through our store, and lots of, what are they called again? It's ICCBF, IBB, CCCC Pro, but where they are natural bodybuilders, where they don't use clenbuterol or whatever it is. Essentially, if your husband's coming home from the gym and he's got little needles full of things and he's jabbing him with his ass, that's not good. That's not going to go well. Steroids are really synthetic enhancement. They stimulate testosterone production, but just really is in a really aggressive way. And usually the people who take them end up being quite aggressive as a result of it. You hear all sorts of really crazy stories. It's very emotionally destabilizing. It's not good for relationships. It's not good for the person taking it longer term. When you push testosterone to unnatural levels, testosterone is a growth hormone, right? It's the thing that your body produces that you get a muscle response as a result of, which is why people use clenbuterol or whatever those things are. But the problem is a growth hormone isn't selective, right? So you're growing all things, all tissues. If your body has even a little bit of cancer, that's going to accelerate the growth. So we hear of estrogen-sensitive breast cancers, and that's because estrogen is, for women, like testosterone is for men, a growth stimulator, growth hormone. So I think you just need to be really careful with what you're going to do. And honestly, I'm not the police. I think if people are, and like anything, I think it's kind of exciting in life to have people who are like just driven by these extremes. Humans wouldn't be humans without having these people who are extreme and on the fringe. All I would say is what's on your Instagram feed is not what you should necessarily be looking to achieve. And know that what's on your Instagram feed, natural laws, they say they are not natural. 99% of the time, if you're looking at double muscle guys in their 50s and 60s, even in their 20s and 30s, they're not natural. And I think, there's a YouTube channel, what's it called, Natty or Not, where a guy just goes into gyms and asks guys, are they natty or not? And they're quite transparent, actually, a lot of them. And there was natty being natural. Are you natural, not natty or not? And like loads of the guys go like, no, have you seen my beard? Have you seen like, this is like irregular sized bicep? Like, no, I'm not natural, stupid, And then there's people who like claim they're natty and your man's like, really? And he gets into conversations with them. And sometimes they are. Some people have this like, whatever, inhuman, improbable, preternatural, supernatural tendency towards growth. It's certainly not me. But if you are that person, like, fine, great, make use of it and make hay while the sun shines. But be conscious that what you're representing to other people is not what other people can necessarily achieve. And if you're not that person and you're looking at that person on Instagram, be really conscious that is a 1% of a 1% of a 1% of the human population that can do that if they're naughty.
Testosterone, you mentioned that there. So testosterone, like, are we getting into like a HRT debate?
Yeah, kind of. It's like for men. Exactly. It is HRT for men. Loads of functional medicine people are saying that I, of my age, should be taking testosterone because longer term, muscle sarcopenia is one of the biggest deciders. So muscle sarcopenia is the wasting of muscle tissue. Our muscle tissue is one of our most essential metabolically active tissues in our body because it helps to metabolize sugars. If our body doesn't have as much muscle tissue and our body starts to waste, you have loads of fracture risk. All this sort of stuff goes up massively. Like thinning of bones is way down the list. If you have like a poor muscle tone in terms of skeletal muscle, the fracture risk goes through the roof. And also, if you're not metabolizing sugars because you haven't got the muscle tissue to do it, then you're going to lead to diabetes of the brain, as it's called, which is, versions of dementia, Alzheimer's, these sorts of things. So I think it's a really interesting time in that debate. I don't think I'll ever take synthetic testosterone, but we've just done a video actually on the top 5 herbs that I do use and I recommend for supporting natural testosterone optimization in men without pushing to abnormal, crazy levels.
Okay, so if you're interested in testosterone, have a look at that video. And if you would like to see us talk into other topics around men's health or men's fitness or men's sexuality or sexual health or anything around that sort of stuff, let us know and we'll try and do a video on that too.
Fun times. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, please. We need the help. Tell your friends that we're out here doing all this stuff in the wilderness and we'll get to more people and do more good work. Thanks a million for watching. Bye.